A soft hush settles over the night as you press play, the screen dimming like an oil lamp's last ember. You're here for a journey through the scent of rain in 18th century Europe. Slow, lyrical, and oddly comforting. You probably won't make it through this day in the best way. If you're as sleep-deprived as the postmen of old, tap gently on that like button, subscribe if your eyelids aren't heavy already, and tell us in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is. Now let's ease into tonight's journey. You stand on a slick cobblestone street just after dusk, the air rich with petrichor, the smell of first raindrops on thirsty earth. Lanterns glow at the windows of modest houses. Somewhere a dog barks half-heartedly, more bored than alarmed. You feel the spray of cooling rain on your cheek, a whispered caress, not a downpour. It's the kind of moment where the world breathes slowly, giving you permission to do the same. In 18th century Europe, before GPS apps and street signs, postmen relied on senses you wouldn't expect, especially smell. They memorized how rain mixed with moss on one lane, how wood smoke thickened near the bakers. One major historical fact: postal workers carried no official maps, just practiced noses. They learned each route like reading a novel by smell, step by soaked step. Imagine memorizing your commute by sniffing dandelions and distant fireplaces. A little ironic, given modern directions we mumble to Siri. Near the corner you catch a whiff of damp leather, a rider's satchel, thickened with moisture, creaking as he shifts his horse. You breathe it in, and suddenly you're part of the story, or at least its background scent profile. It's atmospheric, but not in a hipster coffee shop way. You lean in, feeling amused that people now pay $7 for rain-scented candles, when back then it was daily life. A light joke drifts softly. Modern you probably checks Google for rain alerts. These guys just sniff the sky. Another wink arrives. They didn't have Doppler radar, but they sure knew when a cloud sneezed. Third humorous aside. And yes, they smelled like a damp barn, but hey, everyone did. You glance at the street ahead. Remember the leaf-strewn alley from earlier? It's back, curling glistened leaves underfoot. You hear distant laughter, maybe from a children's game interrupted by drizzle. The city feels alive without noise, just whispers and drips. An obscure tidbit drifts in. Some postmen kept little moss sachets in their pockets. They'd press damp moss to their nostrils at crossroads to reorient by smell. Sounds odd. Historians still debate whether that was a serious navigation method or just romantic exaggeration by later writers. Yet it's a charming possibility. Your shoes squish softly with each step. You feel the night folding around you, rain, earth, wood smoke, distant chimney, each scent a breadcrumb guiding you home. And you follow, sleepy traveler, into a past where navigation was sensory, poetic, and entirely reliant on human nuance. You pass a dim, arched alley where the scent shifts, moss giving way to fresh hay from a nearby stable. That's your thread onward. Let the damp compass of your nose pull you further toward the secret world of mail carriers and rain-scented night paths. Gentle reminder. If your eyes are already drifting, feel free to pause. We'll be here tomorrow. Same time, same scent. The street narrows, curving gently between rows of shuttered shops and ivy-draped houses. A puddle reflects the flicker of a lantern above, like it's trying to hold on to the light just a moment longer. You step carefully, your boots brushing against damp gravel, the scent of wet stone growing stronger, sharp, metallic, slightly sweet. It smells like memory, like ink on old letters, like the pause before someone says something important. You hear the soft thud of hooves in the distance, not fast, a deliberate clop, more of a sighing rhythm than an urgency. You glance left. A postman passes, cloaked in wool, his hat pulled low against the mist. He's not rushing. No one does. In this job, you walk with the weather, not against it. And tonight, the weather walks slow. Here's your major historical fact. In the 1700s, mail routes across Europe weren't standardized. Postmen often developed personal, unspoken ways to navigate. Some used the echo patterns of their own footsteps. Others followed the changes in plant smell after a storm. When asked, they couldn't always explain it. They just knew. Like sleepwalkers with impeccable attendance records. You round a bend. The rain eases into mist, clinging to the rooftops like gossip. You pause near an old tavern window. Inside, the warm hum of voices, tankards clinking, and someone off-key humming what might be a sea shanty or just indigestion set to music. You linger for the scent, yeast, spiced ale, and roasted chestnuts. It's a scent checkpoint. One every carrier on this route knows. They don't note the address, they remember the air. Light sarcasm slips in like a cat. Imagine delivering your Amazon package based on how the neighbor's stew smells. Another chuckle. GPS says, turn left at the garlic fumes. And finally, if you reach the smell of wet laundry, you've gone too far. You notice a splash of color ahead. A wool shawl drying on a windowsill, beaded with rain and dripping onto the ledge. As you pass, the scent of lavender wafts from it, probably stuffed in with last season's soap. Another breadcrumb. Another soft mental note made by postmen like you. Here's your obscure cultural tidbit. In some towns, postmen were so scent-focused they'd swear certain flowers bloomed louder after rain. Not brighter, louder. As if lilacs had a volume knob. Some even believed the smell of certain damp herbs, like rue or marjoram, helped align their internal sense of direction. Was it botanical nonsense? Probably. Possibly. Historians still disagree over how much was practical training and how much was folklore passed around over cider. You walk again. The road here is uneven and your pace slows. The scent of the earth beneath the stones deepens, loamy, familiar. The kind of scent that says, you're still on the right path. The postmen didn't need stars. They had seasons in their noses. The mist brushes your skin like silk dipped in mint tea. You breathe in, you exhale. The city quiets, and so do you. The scent is changing again. Less tavern, more tobacco and birchwood smoke, which means you're getting close to the print shop, the next anchor. You keep walking. The night doesn't need you to hurry. It just needs you to notice. You arrive at the print shop by smell long before you see it. The scent of hot metal and ink cuts through the night, like someone mixed burnt toast with ambition. You pause under an awning, its canvas still dripping from earlier rain. Water taps in a syncopated rhythm like a percussionist who gave up halfway through rehearsal. You listen, you breathe, you exist, softly, inside this little sliver of history where the mail moves by foot and direction is measured in wafts. A lantern glows behind a frosted window, casting halos around every raindrop. Inside, a man with inky fingers stacks leaflets no one reads. The print smells sharp, acidic, almost sour, a wake-up call for the nose. You imagine the postman making a mental note here, not of words, but of scent layers. Metal, oil, burnt fiber, all part of his invisible route map. Here's your major historical fact. Printing ink in the 18th century was made with boiled linseed oil, soot, and varnish. It had a scent so distinctive that some postmen used it as a nighttime waypoint. Turn when the air smells like scorched walnuts and stress. Not poetic, but effective. A sleepy joke trails in. Smells like news you didn't ask for. Another follows. Breaking headline. Paper reeks again. And one more, like a dry smile. Back then, fake news came with real fumes. You walk past the shop, and the scent thins into the alley behind it. You're entering the older part of town now, the part where the houses lean in like nosy aunts, and the streets never quite dry. Your feet find grooves worn by 100 years of steps. Underneath it all, the scent of time itself, old wood, damp mortar, and the faint bitterness of yesterday's coal fire. A dog sniffs at your heels, curious but unimpressed. You nod. He doesn't nod back. His fur smells like wet wool and loyalty. He disappears into the fog like a subplot that never gets resolved. Here's an obscure tidbit. Some postmen used scented ribbons inside their hats, dabbed with mint, vinegar, or lavender to reset the nose between stops, like sniffing coffee beans at a perfume counter, but less glamorous and more sweaty. It wasn't officially part of the uniform, but traditions have a way of sneaking in through the nostrils. You continue down the path, the air thickening with chimney smoke. Someone's burning juniper logs tonight, sharp, almost medicinal. That smell means you're passing near the apothecary. You can't see it yet, but your nose knows. And as always, historians remain uncertain about how much of this was intentional method versus anecdotal magic. Did they train their senses like monks in an olfactory monastery? Or did the scents simply become landmarks through repetition? The answer, like most things from that age, lies somewhere between the pages of a water-stained letter and a cloud of pipe smoke. You step forward. The path narrows again. You brush past a hanging curtain of ivy, slick with drizzle. And there, faint but undeniable, is the scent of oranges. Not fresh ones, dried rind, curled and spiced. You're almost to the market square. The mail is still with you, tucked under your coat, damp but intact. The city exhales as you do. You're halfway through, and the smell of rain is still your guide. You slip through the edge of the market square, now deserted except for a single flickering lamp and a half-hearted pile of wilted herbs someone forgot to bring in. The scent hits before you're even aware of it. Clove, thyme, and the faint sharpness of vinegar. It smells like leftovers and superstition. The stalls are shuttered, but their presence lingers in the air, like gossip that didn't get the memo that the day was over. Your boots slide a little on the slick flagstones, cobbled with the kind of craftsmanship that screams, "We built this to last, not to comfort your arches." You pause by a barrel covered with burlap. It smells strongly of damp citrus peel, and beneath it something spiced. Cinnamon, maybe, or dried ginger. You're not sure whether it's food, perfume, or an old merchant's attempt at marketing. Either way, your nose files it under "turn left here next time." And here's your major historical fact. 18th century postmen didn't deliver door to door. They brought letters to central drop points, often taverns, churches, or market stalls, and relied on local memory and scent cues to navigate the ever-changing layouts of growing towns. There were no standardized addresses, just places that smelled right. You walk past a spice cart still half-loaded, its wooden bins covered in tarps. One flap has come loose in the breeze, and the scent rises. Nutmeg, black pepper, dried rosemary. The spices feel ancient, yet oddly familiar, like they've been waiting for someone exactly like you, at exactly this hour, for exactly no reason. Cue the first sleepy joke. You know it's the 1700s when your GPS is just your nose and a prayer. Second one, soft and lazy. Turn right at the smell of regret and salted meat. Final one, trailing off like a drowsy yawn. If the apples smell like socks, congratulations, you've made it to the orchard. You duck beneath an archway where ivy tangles with the remains of a rusted lantern bracket. The air here is cooler, shaded. The smell shifts again. Less spice, more soil. You've crossed into the residential part of the village, that faint onion scent. Someone's dinner, long eaten. That whiff of burnt sugar. Someone's failed attempt at jam. You don't judge. You've set a few things on fire yourself, emotionally at least. Obscure tidbit. Some postmen reportedly chewed on licorice root during long routes. Not for flavor, but because it cleared the thoughts and dulled hunger. Whether it helped navigation or just gave them something to gnaw while dodging angry geese is unclear. Historians still squint at the records with suspicious eyebrows. You pass a well, its stone rim slick with rain. Someone has left a sprig of mint there, tucked into the crack between stones. A small offering, a forgotten garnish. The scent is bright, oddly hopeful. You breathe it in, and the fog in your chest lifts a little. Above, a shutter creaks. Behind it, a window glows, and the distant sound of a lullaby filters into the street, barely more than a murmur. The smell of lavender drifts out, mixed with soap and candle smoke. You note the combination. It'll mark your path back if you ever need it. You walk on. The fog presses closer, not ominous, just soft, like the village pulling up its blanket. One more turn, and you'll reach the bakery. The postman always stopped there, not for bread, but because the smell meant they were almost done, almost home. The bakery comes into view like a dream you've had before, its outline blurred by fog and the soft scatter of lamplight against wet stone. You pause just outside the low wooden door. It's closed now, but the air around it hums with heat and the warm, golden scent of yesterday's crusts. Not fresh bread. No, this is the echo of baking. Crumbs toasted into the hearth. Yeast dreaming in the walls. You lean against the post, letting the scent settle over you like a blanket. Cinnamon, rye. A faint whiff of smoke that says someone may have left the oven on just a little too long. Or maybe they meant to. Either way, it's a familiar smell, a comforting one. Postmen knew it by heart. It marked the unofficial finish line. Here's your major historical fact to carry with you. Many mail carriers in small towns timed their routes to end near the local bakery, not by chance, but by design. Bakers rose early, which meant postmen arriving near dawn could share news, warmth, and sometimes even a stale roll if they were lucky. It wasn't just efficient, it was human. A network of noses and niceties. First sleepy smirk, forget QR codes. These guys scanned sourdough for data. Second, when the mail smelled like muffins, you knew it had arrived. Third, honestly, we'd all check the mailbox more often if it came with croissants. Your steps slow. You pass a narrow garden behind the bakery, just visible through the slats of a crooked fence. The soil is wet, earthy, fragrant. Herbs spill over the edges. Sage, marjoram, a defiant little rosemary bush. You brush your hand against the leaves. They release a scent you'd follow anywhere. Postmen often did. Gardens, like people, had their own smell prints. One obscure tidbit before the night turns in. In some regions, postmen referred to certain homes not by name or number, but by scent. The place with the bay laurel window, or the one that smells like pickled cabbage in winter. It sounds whimsical now, but it was deadly accurate. Their noses remembered what ink couldn't, and historians. They still can't quite agree whether these scent maps were formally taught or simply inhaled over time. No guidebooks remain, only faint mentions in letters and journals. Like so many things from that era, the system was precise, but never written down. You sit now, gently, on a stone bench beside the empty trough once used for horses. The air is still. The scents settle around you like old friends pulling up a chair. You've walked the route, followed the invisible thread of damp ivy, scorched ink and lavender shutters. You've breathed the road that dozens walked daily, with mail pressed to their chest and direction cupped in the palm of their hand. The mail, it's long since delivered. The path, it lingers behind you like a trail of scent. You're not just passing through history, you've become part of its perfume. Now the streets are quiet. Even the mist has curled in on itself, resting gently along the edges of the cobblestones like a sleeping cat. The lanterns fade one by one, not abruptly, but with that kind of slow yawn a flame makes when it finally lets go. The village exhales, and you do too. You lean back, letting the weight of the night press into your shoulders. Above, the stars return, tentative at first, then confident. They're not here to guide, just to witness, to watch a sleepy traveler in woolen sleeves, shoes damp with honest work, and a mind full of scents that aren't easily named. The scent of rain is softer now, not the sharp perfume of the first drops, but the mellow hush of earth after it's had time to drink. Somewhere nearby, a candle burns low. You catch a thread of honey and beeswax. Another home winding down. Another story flickering out. You close your eyes. You're not in the past or the present anymore. You're in that still space between footstep and echo, between message and memory. The postman would have understood that. Even the cat from earlier, the one that didn't nod back, has found its spot under a shuttered sill. You hear a soft, vibrating purr. Or maybe you don't. Maybe the whole world is purring now. You lie still. The scent of lavender and warm stone wraps around you. The night doesn't ask for anything. It just keeps you company. You've walked by rain. You've followed a map no one could draw. You've arrived. Not somewhere, but within something. A history quiet enough to sleep in. So breathe. Sink. Let the street vanish behind you, and the scent guide you. Not forward, but inward. Sleep well, traveler of forgotten roads.